Tori, and I'm just doing this video to basically give you a bit of information over who I am, because most people that see this video will have never seen me again. Nope, that's wrong. Will have never seen me before. Yeah, okay. Basically, I have had a YouTube account for 20 years, but about a year ago, my account got hacked. So I haven't done anything with it since, really. I've done a little bit, but I just haven't done much. So overnight, I lost all my subscribers, all my friends who I might never have met them before, but I still class them as friends because we'd had a lot of interactions over YouTube. My account was hacked. I just lost everything. And since then, quite a lot's changed as well. I hurt my knee shortly after, and in that time, when I'd hurt my knee, I have put on about 1.5 stone since then. I feel pretty terrible, to be honest. That everything just seems to have gone pear-shaped since then. So I thought I'm going to do this video, waffle on, so that when I do future videos, I don't feel like, oh, I've got to explain this and I've got to explain this, because basically my account was just for me. I set it up in 2006. I'd heard about YouTube coming in 2005 while I was at uni, and it was so exciting. It was brilliant. I set it up. I was young. I had a very strange London Canadian accent because my best friend was from Canada, and I spent all my time with him, and by that point I'd spent well over a decade with him all the time. So I had this really strange accent because I'd picked a lot up from him, and I lived in London. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, so I had to have my proper telephone voice instead of my good old Yorkshire voice, which is my natural voice. I don't really know. I mean, voices, everybody picks voices up. Nobody has a natural accent. It's all inherited. But I'm one of those people that inherits it. As soon as I meet somebody, I start merging into their voice, and it's totally subconscious. I don't do it intentionally, but it's one of those things. So I annoy myself with that. I've just got some notes here as well, just because I want to try and keep on track so I can keep this quite short. Okay, yeah, going over a long time, as short as it can be. I'm a mum of 2 kids, 2 cats, 3 dogs. I have a husband. I have previously been a foster carer. I have some amazing foster kids that I still love and still can get heartbroken over the fact I probably will never see them again. Some of them stayed with me for quite a long time. My kids are now 13 and 15, and I'm a singer in a heavy metal band, which I absolutely love. I spend quite a lot of my time doing that. I'm also a dog trainer, which I also love, and I've done that from being very young, very, very young. When I started training my dogs, I adore animals. I rescue animals. I can happily spend my time just with animals. When I was about 15, I started with epilepsy just when I was having my GCSEs. Turned out I think it was actually stress related, so I had an epileptic, I wouldn't have a fit for years, and then I had an epileptic fit when I was taking my driving test. I then had an epileptic fit when I was doing my A-levels. I had an epileptic, well, not just one, I had multiple epileptic fits when I was doing my A-levels, multiple when I was having my GCSEs. And then about 30, I stopped taking the medication I was on now, and because I was just taking this medication. I didn't discuss it with the doctor because I also have ADHD, so I just randomly decide to do things. Do not ever stop taking medication without discussing it with your doctor. But basically, about 30, and I actually haven't had an epileptic fit since, touch wood. So that's a little bit about the background of me. I've got a degree in applied social sciences. I am also a qualified dog trainer. I've got qualifications coming out. I'm also a riding instructor. Qualifications coming out my ears for silly random things, because I also have ADHD, as I mentioned, so it's all over the place, as typical for people with ADHD. So I'm going to do a little bit of a background into my life. In 1993, that is when I met Chris. So Canadian Chris, he got called, and I just adored him from the minute I saw him. He had this lovely long blonde hair. As I say, I'm a heavy metal fan, so he had long blonde hair. It's 1993. We were in the pub, and I saw him at the other side of the pub. I just went over and started chatting to him. That was the start of a lifelong friendship. We started going out. We dated for a couple of years, and then realised that actually we were just friends, and we became best of friends, and I adored him. In 2000, I moved down to London. Again, one of those random things. New Year's Eve, decided that I wanted to move to London. I'd been down to see Chris. Chris was in London. He'd already moved to London a few months before. New Year's Eve, decided wanted to move to London. A few, probably weeks later, me and my boyfriend at the time both moved down to London. We moved in with Chris for a bit, and then we got our own flat in London. And shortly after that, I did actually split up with my boyfriend because basically I've never been very good in relationships. I've been quite independent. Everybody thought that I would just be on my own forever. I was very happy that way. I have good friends. I loved all my boyfriends. I've never ever stopped loving any of my boyfriends, but just that commitment, bit of a commitment phobe. So we'd split up by that point. 2000, I went down to London with no job. Just off I went to London. Now, I had worked at Pizza Hut in Halifax, and I went into Pizza Hut. Now I was a manager in Bradford and Halifax. To be honest, the waitresses got paid more because at the time, even though the wage was very, very poor, I was a very good waitress and I got big tips. So I went into Embankment Place Pizza Hut, and I just said, have you got any jobs going? They said, absolutely. Can you start tonight? There we go. Been in London for a day and I've got a job. Started as a waitress, didn't tell them I'd worked in Pizza Hut before. Got great money as a waitress there. Unfortunately, very quickly they realised that I knew my stuff. I was kitchen trained. I was a manager. I was a trainer in Halifax. So very quickly I got pushed up to where I didn't really want to be. And I was back doing training again, which I loved. I have always loved training. So I was back doing training again in Pizza Hut. And then before long I was going into the head office, and I was working with the head office, sorting things out in the head office about all the training. And I did love it. I then got headhunted by PwC. Some of the people there saw me working as a trainer in one of the Pizza Huts, and they asked me to go work for them, and I then became an office manager in PwC. 2001, I bought a house in Barking in London. Absolutely loved it. Loved Barking. It's one of those places on the Essex-London border. The people from Essex, the people in Barking want to be Essex. They're very annoyed that London has grown and taken over Barking, but it's still an Essex postcode. London telephone number. Don't know if that still is now. This was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So in about 2003, my then boyfriend, a guy called Justin, who I'd met on a mini rally with my dad, he had a minivan, beautiful little minivan, really old minivan. It was about 40 years old at the time, would be 60 years old now. Anyway, Justin also was a motorbike rider, and on the way home from my house one night, Justin got killed in a bike crash, and I was absolutely devastated. At the time, PwC were merging, because it was PwC Business Management, they were merging with IBM, and IBM were making voluntary redundancy, so I applied for voluntary redundancy, wanted to change everything really, applied for voluntary redundancy, got it, and went to uni. Again, a random thing, was walking past the uni, never thought about uni before, didn't want it due to my epilepsy and all the stress. Walking past the uni, and they were taking applicants, so I walked in and applied for uni, started working at uni. I was doing early childhood studies at that point. I did a foundation degree in early childhood studies, and that went on till 2004. While I was in London, I met I had lots of house parties. I loved parties. I had lots of house parties. I owned a house, so I could have these little house parties. There was a guy who lived in Barking. I think he was in Barking. I used to see him at Barking Tube Station, called Stephen Port, and I invited him round to my house. He always seemed a little bit shy. I thought he was gay. He claimed he wasn't, but I was fairly sure he was, so I invited him round to my house with the thought of, I've always liked matchmaking, as my friend Laura will know. Laura, I matchmaked her with another of my friends, and they're still together now. It's absolutely wonderful. She's Polish, he's American, and they're still together now. I love matchmaking, especially when it's so good. Anyway, Stephen Port invited me round to my house, and I asked my friend Simon, who was living with us at the time, I wanted him to come to the party, he was living there, so why wouldn't he? So I thought, I'll matchmake, I'll have him there ready for Simon. Anyway, Simon never came home that night. Now, if you have a look up about, so Simon never met him. So look up about what did he get called? Anyway, look up Barking Murders. You'll find out who Stephen Port was. So, could be a lucky break for Simon there. So I went to the University of East London. I then decided, again randomly, I just was getting homesick. My nan was quite poorly, so I was getting quite homesick. So I just moved back to Halifax in 2004. And I moved over to the University of Bradford, where I met Stephen Griffiths. Now, Stephen Griffiths, I used to see him at uni. I was discussing doing a doctorate, going on to do a doctorate. Stephen Griffiths was doing a psychology doctorate, which is what I wanted to do. University of University of Bradford, I was doing applied social sciences, but I wanted to do a psychology doctorate. So I was chatting with Stephen Griffiths about doing that. He was also a student at the University of Bradford. And then we used to chat on MySpace. This is a time when MySpace was a thing. So yeah, MySpace. We used to chat on MySpace. We had some great in-depth chats. I mean, actually, to me, he was just a kind of hippie type person, a goth more than a hippie, more a goth. He was a goth, which, remember, I'm into heavy metal. Oh, so many friends are goths, so many friends are hippies, and they all follow the same kind of thing. Stephen was he got called Ven. Let me just tell you, he got called Ven, so I'll call him Ven because I never called him Stephen. Ven was quite into his death and things that all you goths are into, and and we discussed things about death, which I've discussed with lots of my friends, what it'd be like to see somebody die. I now know I wasn't very happy when I did find a dead person, but, at the time, I'd never seen anybody dead, what it'd be like, and he was like, I'd be quite interested to see somebody die, thought nothing of it. Anyway, again, look into Stephen Griffiths, who was in Bradford. Yeah, you'll be quite shocked with that. 2005, so I'm still at university in Bradford, and I heard about YouTube. End of 2005. YouTube, wow, sounds really exciting. The internet was new. It was new. It was all new. I mean, I didn't understand much about it, and YouTube was this great thing where you could put videos on and just, nobody was doing much with it, but it was just great fun. So 2006, I started my own YouTube account, and it was just great fun. I was putting on rubbish, very much like this, very unscripted, very nothing professional about it. There was no such thing as influencers at the time, just people talking crap on YouTube. It was brilliant, great fun. So I started the channel and I did some of my dog training things. I talked about my university at the time. I was 4 stone, 5 stone slimmer than I am now. So not great, yeah, all these things. I was a lot younger than I am now and all slim. And in 2007, I was still doing my dog training. I was talking about it on YouTube. I was fostering at the time as well. And I was just having a general good time. 2009, Valentine's Day 2009. Not Valentine's Day actually, but Valentine's Day was the culprit. Sort of mid 2009, I got a surprise. I found out that I was pregnant. I just stopped fostering 3 kids who I worshipped, and I hadn't taken on any more foster kids because I wanted them to be able to come back to me if their adoption fell through. Thank God their adoption didn't fall through, but I wasn't fostering at the time. So when I found out I was pregnant, I didn't have to worry about foster kids and things. I just thought, right, I won't foster now until my kid's older. So surprise, surprise, here I am with a baby. I also decided immediately that I didn't just want one. I wanted them to have a sibling. So I planned in about a year's time to try for a second one. So here I am with a baby. And at this point, by now, I'd got a dog walking business as well. So I was doing the dog training, and I found there was a bit of a gap in the market for dog walking. This was prior to getting pregnant, obviously. Found there was a gap in the market for dog walking, and started a dog walking business. And it was quite funny at the time. I'd say to people, I do dog walking. People go, you do what? What's dog walking? Are you joking? I mean, nowadays, when you think about it, and everybody's like, oh, you're another dog walker. But at the time, it was quite radical, groundbreaking move. So here I am, surprise, surprise, with my baby. She then Chris, he became one of the godfathers. She had 4 godparents. Chris, my friend Ali, my brother, and the father's brother as well. So she had 4 godparents. So she was born, and then 2012, January 2012, I had a second one. So my plan went really well. There's only 2 years and 2 months between my two. So my plan went really well. I did manage to have them. And then I had my friend Dave, my other friend Catherine, and their uncle Colin as godparents for him. And about this time, so 2012, so probably 2011, because while I was pregnant, that's when I got my first employee. So about 2011, I got my first employee. I think while I was planning to be pregnant, so that I could actually, employee. So I trained them up for dog walking, and I had an employee. And quite quickly, I got 3 or 4 employees in the dog walking business. So I got a business running then. In 2012, 2012, my friend John Curry died. It was absolutely heartbreaking. He just had a heart attack and dropped dead. It was just heartbreaking. My friend Chris rang me and said, "Tori, you're not going to believe this. John's dead." And I was just like, "What?" Yeah, he just had a heart attack, dropped dead. So gobsmacked by that. Yeah, absolute heartbreaking. So by this point, I'd lost a few very close people in my life. 2013, I started losing weight actually. So between the 2 kids, I decided, well, I knew I was having a second one, so I didn't try very hard. I put on 4 stone with my first, 4 stone. However, she did weigh nearly a stone at birth, so that, so really I only put on 3, but still 3 stone, it's a lot to put on when you're pregnant. So I lost 2 stone a bit, and I was quite happy. I was like, well, I'm having another one. So for the second one, I put on 4 stone, so I was back to 4 stone in total from my starting weight. So I was back to that. And once I'd had him, my second one, I lost 3 stone a bit very quickly actually. I did fasting. It was absolutely brilliant. Always been very active, because obviously I've been a horse rider, riding instructor, walking around a lot, dog walker, walking around a lot, dog trainer. Also gone to the gym. I used to go to the gym every day at one point. Loved going to the gym. Also done kickboxing, all sorts. So very, very active. But yeah, I'd put on 4 stone with him from my starting weight. I managed to reduce 3 of it, so I was still stone lighter than I was between the 2 babies. So I was only a stone heavier than I was for starting weight. And I was getting bored. I was breastfeeding both of them, and I was at home on my own, because when my youngest was about a month old, the father, he had drink and drug problems, and I had thrown out. So I was on my own with 2 kids, a newborn and a 2-year-old. At the time I had 5 dogs. I had a few ferrets. I had lots of cats, and business, of course. And I was totally on my own. So I was bored. How can you be bored? Yeah, I've got ADHD, so I get bored quite easily. So I started chatting on OkCupid to loads of guys. OkCupid at the time was one of the online relationship chat things, like all these ones now. I don't even know what they're called now. It's a long time since. But in 2013, it was OkCupid, and I met loads of guys. Found it quite boring actually. Got a bit bored of it, and thought to myself, right, I'm going to send off one last one. And there was this one guy who I'd totally ignored. He got a boxer in his photo, but other than that, he looked like a right chav. He got this stupid white coat, which reminded me of, is it Westlife? I don't know, I'm not into that kind of music, but it reminded me of all these bands with the guys that I'm just like, whoa, no thank you. But for some reason, and he'd said he didn't like older women. Well, I'm 5 years older than him. And he didn't want children ever, and he didn't want to get married, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't want to get married anyway, but I had children, so that was so I'd ignored him, and then I was leaving it, and I was getting really bored. So what I thought was, I'm just going to send out messages to loads of guys, see what comes back, if I can get anything exciting going on. And he got back to me. So months I'd seen him on there for months and just ignored him. And then he got back to me, and we started chatting, and then my ex's mother, who we call her Nana, she's absolutely brilliant, absolute lifesaver for me. So Nana said she'd look after the kids after I was expecting the kids. I was going out on a date with this guy for first date, and their birth father had said he'd be at mine at 7 and I could go out, and he didn't turn up. So I messaged him, said, where are you? And he just messaged me back, said, let's see you find a boyfriend when there's nobody to look after your kids. Bear in mind, these 2 kids were both biologically his. Anyway, so I rang his mum and I was like, Sandra, help. Yeah, I've got nobody to look after the kids. I've got a date tonight. And Sandra, bless her little heart, she said, I'll be there. Don't worry, I'll come. I'll sleep on the sofa. You can get back whenever you want. So that saved me a massive job, because he was coming for 2 hours. Sandra stayed, and I didn't come back till 1 o'clock in the morning. So I got a much better time to have with Andy. And as it turned out, Andy had broken his leg. So I'd go out on dog walks, and I'd drive him round. He'd sit in the car while I was walking the dogs, and I'd go back. So every day I could see him, because he couldn't work. Because he got this massive pot on his leg, so he couldn't work. So actually, the start of my relationship, I got to see him every single day. Very quickly fell head over heels. Let me say, by the end, I'd known him one day. One of us said to the other one, and neither of us can still remember who, I just feel like I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you. And neither of us can remember who said that. We're both like, yeah, I remember somebody saying that. Was it you? No. Was it you? No. Who was it? I don't know. By the time we'd been together about a month, I'd already introduced him to the kids, which I was like, I'm never going to ever get a guy, because I'm not going to be willing to introduce anybody to my children. So after a month, I'd already introduced him to the kids. Kids adored him. And by about a month, we'd started discussing basically getting married. So we've both gone from being never getting married to, I've been proposed to 6 times in my life and always run away as soon as somebody's proposed. I don't even know who discussed it, who brought it up. He's never been married, I've never been married, and here we are now, 13 years later married. But you know, we were married within a year, so a year later we were married. The kids came down the aisle. The kids don't remember him coming into their life, so they've had a dad all their life, which is great for both of them, really. However, sadly, just before we got married, Chris was going to be the best man at the wedding, and it was all lovely, and then Chris died, dropped dead of a heart attack. And he just rung me to say, I can't believe it's a year since John died. Now, Chris was a travelling stage manager, John was the same, all in theatre, so they did a lot, they partied hard. So Chris had just rung me and said, I can't believe it's a year since John died. And I got home, and at the time, mobiles, I did have a mobile, but a lot of people didn't, and they still all have my landline, which I still have, but I got home and my landline it was full of messages, and I'd had friends ringing me. So Marcus and James particularly had both rung me, and they were ringing, Tori, contact me, Tori, contact me, Tori, contact me. And literally just as I listened to them, the phone rang again, and it was James, and James Holmes, and James just said, I don't know if you've heard the news, but Chris is dead. And yeah, that was my best friend for life gone. He has much. But what I had learnt, sadly, I'd already learnt, because when I heard about Justin, when they rang me the next day to say that Justin was dead, I started crying and screaming, it's not true, you're lying to me. And I never forgive myself for that, never, because how? Imagine having to ring around people and tell them that somebody's dead. So I managed to compose myself with James. But I've never got over it. Never. Anyway, moving on. So, after that, yes, I got married to Chris, and no, I didn't. I got married to Andy, the husband. I got married to Andy, and then both of us put on weight. We both started putting on weight. We're happy. We were so happy together. We started putting on weight. I mean, goodness me, Andy put on an awful amount. He got to really, really big. And we went on holiday with Mum and Dad, and he was huge. I mean, I can't say anything. Mine came on much slower. Andy's came on overnight. I mean, we'd been together about a year, and all of a sudden he was a whale. I mean, excuse me. Now that's Zeus. You might hear my animals in the background. One of them, you might hear throwing up, because she's a year in with cancer now, and she does make a lot of noises, sound like she's sick. She's not generally, but it's quite horrible sounding. Zeus is a little bit of a witcher. He's wanting to go out. And and the Cavalier will just jump up on me and sit on me. And then I've got cats, who you might hear, hence the hole in the wall up there. We're in the middle of renovating the house as well, so it's all a bit of a nightmare at the moment. But yeah, so I'd put the weight on, and then not much happened really. I mean, come on, I'm, you know, newly married, little kids, running businesses, working my butt off. And then Andy was really miserable in his job. He just worked in an office. So I encouraged Andy. I was making enough with my business that we decided Andy could quit his job. Susie, shush. Andy could quit his job and start working as a joiner, which was what he did as he started working. Can I help you? Okay. He started working as a joiner straight out of school, but then he got a degree in music. But he never used his degree in music. But he started working, so he was a trained joiner. And then he's moved into sort of building business, really building things. And so I encouraged him to go after a job that he'd love, and I could afford it at the time. And then COVID. Well, I mean, everybody knows COVID. Well, what a nightmare. So we heard about COVID. I mean, we were laughing at all the Chinese with the masks and things. You know, it was like, how ridiculous can you imagine? It's never going to happen here. And lo and behold, it did, didn't it? Of course it did. It happened everywhere. So COVID hit. Both of us were self-employed at this time. So we lost thousands. I mean, we're still struggling now. But I mean, I've been injured and things are going on. And that's my doorbell. Somebody's at the front door. Okay. They can just stay at the front door, I think. No, I don't think it's anybody. It's just a delivery. They've gone. So, yeah, back to where I was. COVID. So it was horrific for everybody. But unfortunately, we weren't in great positions with COVID. I did do a lot of posts and things, which helped. But both being self-employed, we had no money coming, nothing. But neither of us had premises either, so we couldn't claim. Like, people were claiming money for premises, and we couldn't claim anything. We just ended up seriously in debt. After COVID, my business was still struggling, and I was very depressed at the time. So I took somebody on to actually run the business, and I started work as an associate teacher in one of our local schools, which I absolutely loved. But it was just too far, way too far to travel. I was travelling an hour there, an hour back. And then I moved over nearer home and started working in another school. I loved the kids. The kids were absolutely fabulous. But unfortunately, my manager that I had when I started left, and I got a new manager, and yeah, I wasn't as happy in the post. So one of my friends, Tam, she told me that the girl she worked for, who had cerebral palsy, she needed another carer, so I went to work for her, and was really enjoying it, really enjoying the job. This job was actually less time than the school as well, so I was going back into my dog walking and dog training. And then I fell down a hole, and I injured my knee, my shoulder, and I banged my head. I knocked myself out. That was the most worrying thing, the fact that I knocked myself out. And I had to take a while off work, and I couldn't walk properly. I was quite dizzy. It was quite horrible. My knee is still injured to this day from that. That was a year ago. My knee was still injured to this day. And basically then I got fired from the job. They said it was my ADHD. They said that the girl couldn't cope with my ADHD. But I think it was from the fact that I'd had this injury because I was having to take time off work. So whichever, they shouldn't really have fired somebody for ADHD, but never mind. Anyway, around this same time, I lost my YouTube channel as well. So just before I got fired, I lost my YouTube channel. Woke up one morning. I hadn't been doing much with it because, as I say, I'd been in quite a bad place. I'd not been in a great place, so I hadn't been doing much with it. I hadn't been on it since I had May, really. So I don't know when it went. And I went on, and it had just gone. No access, couldn't do anything. My phone number backup wasn't working, nothing was working, my email wasn't working. I applied to YouTube, said what had happened, and basically YouTube just went, well, crickets, you know, absolute crickets. So, yeah. And then in July, I was still working for them, so in July of 2024, we found out that Shiva, one of my German Shepherds who I use for training, she works with dogs with anxiety, she's a really well trained girl, she'd got cancer. and the vet basically told us that we had to have a foot sleep there and then. Anyway, of course we ignored that, and we took her on holiday. On the holiday we thought, no, we're going to have a foot sleep the minute she gets home. She couldn't walk, she was in a real mess. We were debating having to put sleep on holiday. Then she started to seem cheered up a little bit, and long story short, she's still with us today, still enjoying life. She's gone very thin, but she still loves life. So I'm very glad that a year ago we didn't have a foot sleep. We changed vets because we thought maybe the vet diagnosis was wrong, but no, sadly not. So after I'd put quite a lot of weight on over all this time, so in total by now I'd put on about 3 stone from my original starting weight that I always was. Always, when I was young, I just counted calories, never really ate much, and yeah, I put a lot of weight on. But since I've hurt my knee, I've put about 1.5 stone more on, I think. So 1.5 stone more since that point. So now I'm struggling to walk. I'm certainly struggling to exercise. I also love food. I'm a vegetarian. Been a vegetarian all my life, really. I was a vegan for quite a few years when I was younger, but gave that up, and I've just been vegetarian all my life. So I'm struggling to walk, and that's made me have this. So I've just had physio this week, which has actually made it worse. I've got physio again next week. But yeah, that basically brings you up to date. And what I will possibly do, well, what I'm hoping to do is I will just put videos on about various things. I've been checking out Mongiorno. There is now also the recycling being collected outside, so if you hear the banging, that's the recycling outside. Mongiorno, I think it is. One of these weight loss injections, I've been checking out those because due to the fact that I can't exercise, I used to do 25,000 steps a day. That's it, 25,000 steps a day, so you wonder why when I've given that up, I've put a bit of weight on. But I would still put weight on. I think I just eat too much. I eat good food, I eat healthy food, I think I just eat too much of it. And when I've looked at the weight loss jabs, they're basically saying that it helps you just to feel full with your regular amount, proper amount of food instead of being a pig. I mean, when I started working at Pizza Hut, I'll give you a tip. When I started working at Pizza Hut, people in general, we had a small pizza, and that was aimed at 1 to 2 people. Then there was a medium pizza, which there still is a medium pizza, but I think medium is now classed as 1 person. The medium pizza was 2 to 3 people, and the large pizza was 3 to 4 people. And I think nowadays they market the medium pizza for 1 to 2 people, and the large pizza for 2 to 3. I might be wrong there, but it's about that. So basically what it's saying is we all eat way too much. And also, when I worked at Pizza Hut, we used to get a 3 personal pan pizza. That's the kid pizza, a little bit smaller than small, and I only ate half of it. That's all I eat every day, half of it. But I did have it every day. It was only half. Whereas now, I can eat a medium if it's stuck in front of me. So what does that say about how much people are eating nowadays? Because I'm not the only person. However, thanks to my eldest child, who did say to me, "Mum, you know you're fatter than any of your friends." Thanks. I love you too, my dear. But let's hope that can change. But I just don't seem to have, I don't have the willpower at the moment. I'm struggling with anxiety a bit as well, due to my neighbour, the Shiva who's got the cancer. Her poo smells bad. My neighbour's taken offence and told me that we should have a good sleep because the smell of the poo offended her. Well, let me put it this way. That woman smokes like a chimney outside my house, and that offends me. But, you know. Anyway, I hope to see you all later, and thank you. If anybody has listened this far, thank you so much. I'll just do what I do. Cheers. See ya.